لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال الله تبارك وتعالى وإن هذه أمتكم أمة واحدة وأنا ربكم فاعبدون صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد عدد ما ذكره الذاكرون وصل على سيدنا مولانا محمد عدد ما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلواتك. My respected brothers and sisters and honorable elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Since the last few weeks now, the situation on the ground in the Central African Republic has been of that brutality and barbarity. Muslims are facing daylight persecution, open and fearless persecution. And those who are carrying out attacks against innocent Muslims, civilian, unarmed. These scenes can be seen through some pictures and videos that are now available on the internet. This situation is very, very heartbreaking and painful for every single Muslim, and should be, because all Muslims are one ummah. We may be divided into countries, we may be divided into different races and ethnicities, and we may speak different languages, we may have a different skin color, but we are one. And what makes us one is not the skin color, is not the language, is not the nationality, is not the region, is not the cuisine. It is the deen that we all follow. It is the God that we all worship. It is the Quran that we all believe in. It is the messenger Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that we all follow. These are the things that unite us. These are the things that make us one ummah in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Mu'minun. وَإِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. This ummah of yours is one ummah. And I am your Lord, so worship me. This ummah is one ummah, and the God of this ummah is one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this ummah only worships Allah. And in another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ فَاتَّقُونَ. This ummah of yours is one ummah. and fear me alone. So we fear only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we learn from our Quran and from the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who said that the example of this ummah is like one body, kajasadin wahid. And when we are like one body, then if one part of the body is in pain, then the entire body becomes restless. So when one part of the ummah is in pain, in suffering, then the whole ummah should become restless. This is why the affairs of entire ummah concerns us and concern every single Muslim. We are concerned. And we are heartbroken. And we are also in pain because our brothers and sisters in the Central African Republic are in pain. Mass murder is taking place. Not just a few people here and there are being killed, but people in large numbers are being killed and their bodies are being burned. You can see the pictures and the videos where you can observe with your own eyes the enemies known as anti-Balaka. They are killing people, men, women, and children in daylight and setting ablaze their bodies, not even sparing their bodies for burial rituals, for burial rites. Their homes are being looted. Everything is taken from their homes. Their homes are being destroyed. Furthermore, even the houses of God, the houses of worship for Muslims are not safe. Masajid are being destroyed, being demolished, being looted. And even further than that is they are openly burning Quran. Openly burning the copies of Quran just to cause even more pain to the Muslims. Because no Muslim can see the Quran being burned. They can see their house being burned. They can see everything else being burned. But they cannot see a Quran being burned. But Muslims are so helpless in that country that no one is giving them any protection. No one is giving them any rights. No one is giving them any support. No one is giving them any assistance. And they are helpless. And therefore, they have no way but to flee. And this is why, 2 weeks ago, thousands and thousands of Muslims from the capital of Central African Republic, Bangui, they left the country. Many of them went into the neighboring country, Chad. Some of them tried to get into Cameroon. This country is bordered by many other African countries, including Sudan, North Sudan, South Sudan, and Chad, Cameroon. So, the government of Chad was generous and was open-hearted. Therefore, they welcomed many of these refugees. And these people who left Central African Republic, they left only for one reason, for the safety of their own lives. They left everything behind. They were businessmen in this country. They were the economic force in that country. But there's no more safety there. They cannot safeguard themselves. They cannot safeguard their homes. They cannot safeguard their businesses. They cannot safeguard their lives. They cannot safeguard their children. So they had to leave. UN is calling this ethno-religious cleansing. It is similar to ethnic cleansing that took place in Balkans region in 1990s. But there is an added element to that here. Even though that had religious element to it, Muslims were being persecuted and Muslims were being mass murdered in that country at that time as well. But here it is pure religious. Because all the people, they look alike. The only thing that makes them different from each other is the religion. Those who are not Muslims, they are against Muslims. Those who are not Muslims, they are identifying people through their religion, women through their headscarf, men through their kufi or through their thawb, and then they're killing them. They're forcing them to either leave and clean out the Central African Republic or be murdered. And Muslims are over 15% of that country, or were, because they're not there anymore. Majority of them have already left. They were there, and they were more than 15% of that country. And they were not there just now. They have been there for centuries. The prominent ones came into that country in 1800s, in early 1800s. But the roots go way long before. When these people were introduced to Islam from Sudan, in Ethiopia, and other countries in Africa, that happened many, many centuries ago. But these Muslims who are now leaving the Central African Republic, they had been there for centuries. Their ancestors had been there. Their forefathers had been there for centuries. And now they're being forced to leave that country. And the irony and tragedy is that no one is even talking about it. As if nothing is happening. What's even more upsetting and sad is that the media, the governments, and the people are more interested and more intrigued by the Olympic Games in Sochi. Who's winning the gold? Who's winning the silver? Who's winning the bronze medal? Which country has collected more gold medals? Which country has collected more silver medals? Which country has collected more bronze medals? This is what we all hear about. And no one even cares about the human beings. Human beings, adults, women, and children being murdered in daylight. No one even talks about that. I heard this on NPR. Fortunately, NPR dedicated a small portion of their time to this story 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, many of these Muslims, they were going in mass exodus. They were doing hijrah from Central African Republic to the neighboring country of Chad. And they were escorted by the Chadian forces, Chadian guards, because no one can be there unless there's armed protection. These people, anti-Balakas, they're killing in daylight. They have no fear from anyone, except if there's a soldier who's pointing a gun at them, then they have some fear. And they're killing with machetes. They're killing with knives. They're killing with swords. So, when trucks filled with these people, these refugees, children, men, women, adults, and aged, one person fell from a truck, and all of a sudden, these people were, these anti-Balakas, they were standing on the sides of the road. They picked up that man and slaughtered him right there. And NPR reported on that. The scene was captured on videos. The scene was captured in photos. And no one could save that person. And these kind of horrific images are coming. But we have no concern apparently for them. America is the most powerful country on earth. And when we see some interest in some place, even if it has to be 10,000 miles away, we will go there and we will fight for our interest. But is it not in our interest to protect the civilian, innocent human beings? Are we not all one? The human beings are one family. We may have different colors. It happens in families. There are 5 brothers, 3 brothers are white, and 2 brothers are black. But does that expel them from that family? Blacks, whites. And whether we speak one language or not, if we are human beings, we are one family. And this is what Islam teaches us. Islam teaches us to go above and beyond, transcend the boundaries of races, the boundaries of colors, the boundaries of languages, the boundaries of regions, and the boundaries of ethnicities. It makes us responsible to protect all human beings and to defend all human beings. These are the values that are universal. And these are the values that we must uphold under all circumstances. We should not abandon these values when a matter does not serve our interest. Our interest should be bound to these values. The values that are universal in every culture and in every human race. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us responsible for these things. And at this moment, although we are helpless too, we have no government power, we have nothing that we can do to help these victims, help these refugees, and stop this ethnic cleansing or ethno-religious cleansing taking place in Central African Republic before our own eyes. But there are a few things that we can do that are within our power. The first and the foremost thing, and that also may be the most powerful thing, is to invoke your prayers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, help these helpless people. This is the very first thing and the very basic thing that we can do. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't do any harm to us. So we should make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these victims, for these oppressed people, innocent civilians who are being oppressed openly. Second, we live in a democracy where we are always being represented by representatives in Congress, representatives in House, and representatives in Senate, and our representative in the White House. Barack Hussein Obama. We have this obligation to at least make a phone call to our representatives. Those people who represent us in the Congress and those people who represent us in the White House. They are our government. So we have this obligation to at least make a phone call to our representatives and let them know that we are aware of these atrocities taking place in Central African Republic, and we want you to do something about it. Pass a resolution. Or put up a bill that would help these people. Or something. We can do something to help stop this violence, to help end this violence. So we can make a phone call to our representatives and let them know that we are concerned and we care about these issues. It may not be our country, but the people there are our own brothers and sisters. They are also human beings. There are also children. There are also women. There are also aged people. They're also helpless. So it is incumbent upon us to help them. This is the least we can do. And there are governmental organizations and there are non-governmental organizations. And together, they can do a lot. And if there's some legitimate organization that is sending help, financial help, material help, like food, clothing, and other things to these victims and these homeless people now, these refugees, maybe we can make donation and help them in that way as well. If we do some of these things, at least we will have this rest on our conscience that at least we did something to help them. But if we don't, then we should blame ourselves as well, that we were standing still and mute and we did nothing to help them. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in a way where we can help each other. Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. O mankind, we created you from one man and one woman, linking us back to our roots, that we are all children of one person, Adam alayhi salam. And from here, we're called Adam, because we are from Adam alayhi salam. We are the descendants, the children of Adam alayhi salam. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. We made you into tribes and clans, so we may know each other. We may recognize each other. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The most righteous in the sight of Allah from among you is the one who has more piety. The most honorable in the sight of Allah is the one who has most righteousness and most piety. So the level of righteousness and the level of piety will determine our honor in the sight of Allah. And our best character will make the determination. Not the wealth. The wealth doesn't make a person the best person. The lineage doesn't make a person the best person. The power doesn't make a person the best person. But the best character and the righteousness is what makes a person a best person in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the most honored in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my respected brothers and sisters, this is something that I believe is our responsibility, to become aware and to spread awareness. At least if we know, if we are aware, then we know and we care. To become aware is to know and to care. And this is the minimum that we can do. Become aware of what's happening with our brothers and sisters in Central African Republic, in Syria, in Palestine, in Burma, Myanmar, or other places around the world. And then at least have this consciousness in your heart, this awareness in your heart, that we can make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for relief. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to practice upon the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ameen wa akhir da'wa.